All right. All right, all you multifamily maniacs, welcome to the Deal Lab. I'm Dr. Heath Jones.
And I'm Hutch, the Marine Investor.
Oh man, today is an exciting day. Today it marks episode number 20 of the Multifamily Real Estate Experiment podcast. And what many of you guys don't know is whenever Hutch and I 4 months ago started on this journey, we sat down and we listed out who we wanted and what the episodes were going to be. And for episode 20, we had big goals. We wanted to get someone that was very special to both of us. And we thought it was kind of crazy, but at the end of the day, we were able to make it happen. And so we have an exciting episode for you today. Today, we will be we'll be asking the question, how do you buy your first apartment building? And then we're going to dive into our guest playbook on how to become a master real estate syndicator. Our guest today is a leading authority on apartment building investing in the U.S. and is extremely passionate about helping others become financially free in 3 to 5 years by investing in apartment deals. Through his company, Nighthawk Equity, he controls over $65 million in performing multifamily assets. He also teaches others how to do their first deal through tons of free content on his website, as well as additional training programs that he offers. He has helped students acquire over 750 units valued in an excess of $27 million and is on track to do another 1,000 units in the next 12 months through his unique coaching and deal desk program. You can find out more about our guest and how you can invest with his group at www.themichaelblanc.com. We'd like to welcome today, very much pleasure to have you, Mr. Michael Blanc. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, Dr. Jones and Hutch. Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me here today.
Oh, man, it's an absolute honor to have you join us today. We got you for about 30 minutes, and we try to make it as fast and effective and powerful as possible, right? So let's see what happens. So, Michael, just straight off the cuff, what is your favorite real estate quote?
My favorite real estate quote, right off the bat. My favorite quote in general, whether it's real estate or not, I think it has direct applications, is by Tony Robbins. It's in let's see, I have it on my wall. It's in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. And it's because when you trace back when transformation of life happens, it comes from a decision point, from a sincere decision point where someone has decided that enough is enough, that they don't want to be in the same place this time next year. And that decision really shapes the destiny of someone. So anytime you want to transform your life in anything, yes, take action, yes, educate yourself, but really it's fundamentally a decision point. And most people, when they've done something, lose weight, quit smoking, start with a multifamily apartment building, there's typically a very distinct moment in time that they can remember a moment in time when they've decided.
Oh, man.
That is great.
That's perfect. That's absolutely right. I have to say that moment for me was when I was listening to your podcast and your YouTube channel while I was cleaning the house. My chore every weekend on Sundays, I wake up before everybody else because once everybody is up, I can't do anything. I put on my earbuds and I was cleaning the house and listening to you talk about just jumping into multifamily, and that gave me the confidence to do it. So thank you very, very much for coming on today. I'm really excited.
Oh, man, you have been a big part of a big player in Heath and I's progress, right? So I'm not sure if you're aware, but Heath and I, we met at the Dealmaker Live out in Dallas last year. You know, he was the number one guy on the Uber app.
The Hoover app. That's right. That thing is awesome. We're going to use it again this year. This year we're going virtual, unfortunately. But we've got the Hoover app allows us to do a very interesting networking as well. So
it does.
I'm glad you guys connected. A lot of people connected at that event. It was really magical, actually. That's great. You guys hooked up there.
Yeah, I also found my first deal there.
Did you really? How about that? All right.
Nice. That's great. All right. So Michael, you wrote the book on financial freedom through real estate, right? What does financial independence mean to you?
I mean, it means a variety of things to different people, obviously, and it's a very personal thing. I think fundamentally it really means controlling your time, whatever that means to you, right? So, people don't come to me because they want to be a millionaire, right? Or they want to be rich. They come because they want to be able to control their time. Now, the bigger question is, okay, to what end? And that is really a very personal decision. Some people want to take care of their their aging family. Some people want to travel more, or some people, whatever the case may be, they want to volunteer or whatever the case, want to write a book. But it comes down to fundamentally to I want to control my time. I realized that, I need to provide for my family, so money has got to come in, but I want to also control my time. And when you have a job, many times you can do one but not the other. Now, you can quit your job and control your time, but then the money stops flowing. And so we have this conundrum that most people can't solve. And the passive income through multifamily solves that nicely. And that's really powerful.
That's great. So, Michael, who were you before you discovered or you made the decision to become a full-time multifamily investor?
Well, I discovered rather late in life, I was in my mid-30s, that I was actually an entrepreneur. And I say discovered because I've been an entrepreneur. It was just dormant. And it's because I was never surrounded by any entrepreneurs. I was always surrounded by people. My dad was with IBM for 35 years. My relatives were, they were all either they had jobs. There was not a single entrepreneur among them. I never really had an entrepreneurial role model. And even when I got and got a job, I just never really knew that it was a thing, or at least not for me, until really I got into. It became very obvious to me when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. At that point, it almost like my eyes were opening. I look back at my life, and every time I did something, like I developed something or created something, and I love creating stuff. Every time I did that, it really lit me up. Like I could do something for hours, and I didn't even know it. It seemed like 10 minutes went by, and I was like, man, I think I'm an entrepreneur. I think I need to go out on my own. And that's kind of what I did, but it was a slow process. Other people who grew up with a role model have it a lot different. They see different role models and they go, well, I don't want that corporate exec job. I mean, it's kind of cool, but I don't want to be that guy or that gal, right? But on the other hand, well, look at this person here. They've really built a business and look at their life now, and I want that. So having role models, even in multifamily, I interviewed Jacob Blackett yesterday on the podcast, and he had a role model around single family house investing. So guess what? He got into single family house investing, which was like, he built this giant portfolio until he finally figured out that it was insane. And he switched over. And so the nice thing about, podcasts like what you guys are doing or these books is now you have these role models. Even 5-6 years ago when I got started, there wasn't really much talk about multifamily investment or certainly syndication. And so there really was a lack of role models, which is why everybody did single family house investing. I mean, you can't blame them. So I think role models and having a model to follow to help you visualize something is absolutely critical.
Well, I think that a good point that you brought up was everybody that's doing the single family, because there's not a lot of information out there, is a lot of people see the multifamily, they see the apartment buildings, and they're like, oh, that's too big. I gotta start out small and maybe work my way up to it one day. And the one thing that was really great about coming across your content was, well, no, there's a whole step that you could skip and jump into it. And there's resources out there to help you do that. And so when it comes to, all your years of multifamily experience and mentoring people to successful multifamily acquisitions, what are your biggest tips that you found that you could give someone to help them get their first deal?
Yeah, I mean, the first one is having an open mind to overcoming the two most common objections, kind of to getting started with multifamily. Like you said, most people, they're like, oh, cash flow, wealth, wow, yeah, it's great, but I don't have the experience for that. So, and I don't have the money for it. So let me flip some houses, wholesale, or build up a rental portfolio, and then I will take that experience and the money I make, and I will then, quote, graduate to the big boys. That's generally what everybody thinks. And it's not a bad plan. I mean, look, it's a lot better than most people who never get into real estate, right? But it's an unnecessary step. In fact, it's an unnecessary distraction in a different direction, actually. And so the thing is that people can replace those limiting beliefs with the alternate truth, which is, I don't need direct experience. I can get some education and build a team that has experience. And I don't need my own cash. I can raise that money from people who actually can't wait to talk to me. And if you change those limiting and false beliefs to something like that, your whole world changes. Even I just referencing Jacob, because I just had talked to him yesterday, and that was his major fundamentally false and limiting belief, that he needed to do everything himself. And therefore, while he was making progress, it was very slow. It was a lot of work, and it was just really tedious until he discovered the whole thing about joint venturing and raising money. And he's like, where has this been all my life? All of a sudden, it skyrocketed. you mentioned Brian Briscoe, and you guys are getting together and you're partnering, you're joint venturing, and all of a sudden, magic happens. You get success much faster than if you did it on your own. So it's really this, hey, I don't need experience and I don't need my own cash. Like if you believe that, it's a game changer, and it will propel you to take action.
Yeah, so I really do love the content that you put out, because you partner with ETH and actually speaking to brokers, our main areas in Huntsville, Alabama, and Decatur, and also Athens, Alabama, right? So when we speak to brokers up there, because we got your training, or we're familiar with information that you put out, we can speak that lingo because we have taken time to educate ourselves. Additionally, the community that you've created with the Deal Maker Mastermind, it's like a gold mine, right? Because now we have like-minded individuals who have very similar goals. And what I noticed is that everyone in the community, at least the ones that we communicate with, they have an abundance mindset where we share so much information and we grow together. And it's all attributed to you. And we greatly appreciate the community that you have created. So you talk about partnership, right? In the book, find somebody who's doing what you do and then partner with them. Right. And I was fortunate to partner with Brian Briscoe. And when I speak to a broker and I said that I'm a co-sponsor on 55 units, now that carries a lot more weight. And I can, because I've read your book, I've read a lot of free information that you put out amongst other contents. Now I can speak that language, and I can take drastic action, so really appreciate you.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you got to speak the right language. It's like anytime you play golf and you start using non-golf language, or you violate some unwritten etiquette rules, you're treated differently, right? And it's the same thing when you call up brokers and you say stupid stuff, and then they'll say, "Hi, that's great. Why don't you send me your proof of funds? I'll send you my deal."
Yeah, right.
That's how they make it go away. And so, hey, why don't you use the right language and build a team around you, right? And the great way to do that is by just partnering up with people, and then you can reference their track record. And that's right. You don't need 10 years of landlording to claim that you have a track record, because you have a team.
Absolutely. And so there's one thing that you talk a lot about, and it's something that fascinated me whenever I first started to get into this game. And this was the idea of the law of the first deal. So could you explain to us what that is and how that works?
So at first I'll observe how it works, and then we can speculate why it works. But
excellent.
The law of the first deal basically says that if you do a multifamily deal of any size, you will be financially free in 3 to 5 years. Now, the truth is, it actually is more like 1 to 2 years. It's very rare that someone takes 3 years to become financially free. We want to be a little conservative, but and what's interesting about it is it works regardless of what deal size your first deal is, whether it's a duplex or a 50, 100 unit. It doesn't really matter. What happens is the first one is almost always the smallest, takes the longest, is the hardest to do. It's kind of a grind. And then as soon as you close that first deal, the second and third follow in rapid, almost automatic succession. And then most people have covered their living expenses at that point, and they can be financially free. And there's some magical switch in the universe has switched in the on position, where all of a sudden you become a deal and money magnet after you close that first deal. And maybe you guys experienced it yourself.
Yeah, it was funny because part of it, when you're married, of course, you have a partner that you have to get on board with your goals as well, especially when it comes to finances. And we had decided to get into real estate. And so we started looking at single family houses, and we're like, man, it's going to take too long to actually get any cash flow. We should just go to multifamily. So we bought the quad. And after that, I was like, hey, there's a 16 unit that's available. I want to buy that. And my wife's like, oh, bless your heart. That's a good 5-year goal. We can't do that. And I was like, actually, this Michael Blanc fella keeps telling me I can. And so basically listened to the videos just loud enough for her to hear. And she would ask a question. I'd pause your video and I'd explain what you were talking about. And then she was like, well, tell you what, if you're able to make this happen, I'm on board, and we'll just dive head in. So long story short, raised the money, made it happen, and partnered up with Hutch, and we've just been rocking along ever since. So it's just been an incredible journey, to say the least.
It really has. You've seen that all of a sudden brokers who never return your phone call all of a sudden are calling you because they're working on a listing they haven't completely finished yet, because now they heard that you closed a deal. And then the investors who are on the fence are like, yeah, let's see what these guys do, and then they missed the last opportunity, which turned out to be pretty good. And now all of a sudden they're in. And so you start attracting more capital, you attract more deals, and your confidence level is just sky high, and your comfort zone expands, which explains why the deals start getting larger. And so that's the power of the law of the first deal. So if I'm talking about financial freedom with real estate, and you're trying to do the math, well, how many units do I need? And I need 543 units to replace my income. Rather than going that route, which is overwhelming. I mean, how many deals is that? How much money do I raise? And it's so overwhelming. The mountain is so big that most people are like, I'm not even going to start. That's so dumb. Versus, you know what? Why don't you just focus on your first deal, because all that stuff essentially will happen automatically without you even trying. And let's just focus on that first deal. And what is that first deal? Where is it? How big is it? And then we're going to try to push your comfort zone a little bit further than what it is now. But, you know, if your comfort zone ends at 2 units, you just cannot fathom the idea of getting something larger. Then do the duplex, okay? Do the duplex, because once you're done the duplex, the second and third deal are going to be bigger. And within no time, you're doing 50, 100 plus unit deals, even if you start with a duplex. And that's the power of the first deal. I can boil it down to something that's more manageable, more bite-sized.
Take time to educate yourself, right? Is definitely one of the biggest steps. One, you got to overcome your fear and shift your paradigm from single family to wanting to doing multifamily, and then take action, right? A couple of the early actions is to educate yourself. You can partner with other folks, learn the lingo, and then actually execute your first deal. Now, I got my first deal, Michael. How do I become a master syndicator like yourself? What is your exact?
You can't.
What is your exact playbook?
You can't. It's just not possible, you know. So I don't know. I say master, right? I mean, you just take one thing as it comes, and you just learn as you go along.
What would be your exact playbook?
My exact playbook, becoming a master. Man, I think if I were to boil it down, it's really having a good team around you. I have noticed that when I have good people around me, great things happen. And when I have mediocre people around me, either things don't happen at all, or I'm just stuck, or I'm constantly mired in, firefighting mode, and I can't really move anything forward. So it's really the people. I mean, you have a great partner, and that you learn to trust each other. And let's say you're raising money and the other person's finding deals, and you just see that this person's hustling and they're bringing in deals, and you're like, well, this is great. Now I can really focus on raising money. And now you have 1 + 1 equals more than 2. Okay. If you have that situation, it's a very powerful thing. And I think the secret to success is really just continuing to create opportunity. So you're expanding the opportunity, and that allows you to bring on additional people, right? As you accumulate more deals, you get more acquisition fees, more income, more asset management fees coming in. Therefore, you can now afford to either give away equity to future joint venture partners or start paying them. And so if you're very strategic in who you bring on, every single hire you make, especially early on, is absolutely critical. And if that person is not an A player, you've got a problem, because A players only hire other A players because they have no tolerance for anything less. B players hire C players so they look good. And this is the problem with hiring B players, because when they're asked to work with other people, they're not going to hire the same kind of caliber. So it's really important that you hire A players, people who are really good at what they do, and are honest as well. So it's really I think it's about a people thing. If I look good because my team is good, right? So I am always limited to what I can do by myself. As good as I might be, I don't care how good you are. There's always a limit what you can do. You study all great people who have done anything. They always have great people around them that allow them to be that, and that's the same thing here.
Yeah, and keep going back to the community that you have created, right? And that's one of the good things that we have. We find a lot of people are partnering up on the Deal Maker Mastermind. You find a deal, okay, I've been speaking to so-and-so investor, and I can raise money for you, and we can underwrite a deal together, and we both can syndicate this deal as co-sponsor meeting all SEC regulations, right? So it's amazing. It's amazing, this community. So the team is definitely important. Like myself, I love talking to people, right? I try to be cool and collective, emotionless, right? Heath is super good at putting numbers where they need to be and ensuring that all the numbers jive, and we can speak to each other. We can disagree to agree. And we also only attack the problems, never each other. And it's beautiful when you can find a relationship that grows like that, so, and go back to the community. You created that, and
Yeah.
we really appreciated it.
Having a good team is extremely important. And I think that is a good piece of advice for our audience whenever they're trying to either get started, or if you're struggling and you've already started, but now you're struggling, check around and see if maybe you hired some B players who are just carrying C people around them to make them look better. I never heard that analogy, so I like that. Because I could see that in a lot of outside multifamily work that I've done. So that's a pretty good that's an interesting take on it. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit, Michael. The landscape for buying apartment buildings has or is in the process of drastically changing over the past few months. What are some of the strategies that your team had in place, kind of that may have helped you prepared, or how are you preparing for all this unknown that's associated with the pandemic that we're facing right now?
So it's really two questions: is how did we prepare, and how are we handling it now? I mean, the way you prepare is that everyone's already been talking about this recession that was somewhere on the horizon. No one really knew what would trigger it, and I was convinced that there wasn't anything economic. There's no economic foundation fundamentally that was wrong. It had to be something else, and I didn't think of a pandemic, but that's exactly the kind of thing that the only thing I could think of would trigger some kind of recession. So we knew something was coming only because we were overdue, right? And so. Well, so when we do that, you have to make sure that you're conservative with your underwriting, number one. And I see a lot of syndicators selling, 19% IRR, and you look at their assumptions, they're just going, oh my gosh, like their assumptions are way off. And unfortunately, the average investor looks at their the marketing package and just doesn't know. They just take a look at the return and the cash on cash, and they're like, this is great. And meanwhile, all the assumptions are extremely aggressive, rent growth or exit cap or cash reserves. So number one, so underwriting has got to be conservative. Number two, with that, there's got to be plenty of cash in the deal. So enough cash to close and reserves out of NOI. So in other words, you never run out of cash. That's one of the main lessons I learned from going through the last recession. Not so much with real estate, but with the restaurants, is you don't want to run out of cash. That's the absolute worst, because you could actually save the ship, but if you don't have cash to get there, you got to shut everything down, you're defaulting, you would never get there. So it's the same thing with apartment buildings. If you don't have to sell or refinance right now, and you're just having some struggles with making cash flow, well, if you have cash reserves, you can get through that, and it's going to get better. So never running out of cash. Now, what are we doing moving forward? Number one is there's definitely a bit of a lull in the action with regards to finding new deals. I'll get back to that in a second. So what we're doing with that is we're really looking at our procedures and processes. What can we do to get better, right? Looking at our internal procedures and how we manage assets. So we're taking that time and redirecting some of our acquisition efforts to some more internally focusing stuff. So as a result, we're going to be a better company. We're going to have better systems, processes, software, even people. And so we're going to be better coming out of that. With regards to acquisitions, I think we're going to get fantastic buying opportunities later in the year. Right now, people are a little bit paralyzed, and sellers are still insisting from the prices from yesterday, and that's going to start. People are going to realize, well, gosh, if I want to sell this, and I want to sell or need to sell, then I'm going to have to drop the price, because first of all, there's uncertainty. Uncertainty is always bad. We don't know what's happening with the capital market. That's changing every single day. That's going to have an effect on prices. We're going to have some downward pressure on operating income. We don't know how bad it's going to be. We just know it's either going to be flat or slightly down. That's going to have an impact on prices. All these things are going to have downward pressure on prices, which is good because they were too high to begin with. So we're going to have great buying opportunities here in a few months. And so you want to be ready for that. And also now is a fantastic time to educate yourself. We talked about that right now. Connect with community, read a book, buy a course or whatever the case may be. Educate yourself, build your network, your support network, and start raising capital, right? Because the conversation to have with investors is super easy. Hey, how's the stock market treating you? And they're like, well, not so well. Well, I got something else for you might be interested in. It's not nearly as volatile. It's consistent. It pays cash flow, and you hardly pay taxes on it. And they're like, well, what is that legal? Like, what is it, right? And so now you have a door open to talk about syndication. So it's a really great way to start building up investors behind you when the buying opportunity starts.
Yeah, great. So got it, Michael. Syndication is great. I pay less taxes, but my portfolio is down 30 to 40%. How do you address that question?
Well, I can't solve that. I can't solve it. It's a real thing, right? The same investor who had $100,000 to invest, whatever, a few weeks ago, now no longer does have $50,000 to invest. So it's a real thing, and there's still some shell shock, and it's probably still not over yet. And so you can't solve that. There's been a real loss of capital that, the only thing that it'll do is I think it'll rattle a lot of people who have been investing in the stock market for years, possibly decades. And a reminder that the stock market is highly uncertain, highly unreliable, highly volatile. I can't make any kind of financial projections or planning with any kind of certainty. And for me, that's not good. I want to be able to project 5, 10, 20 years into the future, and I can't do that. I can't seem to. I'm irritated by this. And so while that person may not have the money right now, it will certainly induce them to start looking into it now. And that's the main thing we can ask people. Hey, why don't you just look into it? Just look into this. Read this book, read this webpage, look into it, and then they'll come back. And some people, still have money to invest, right? If you have $1 million invested, now you have $600,000 left. Okay, that's not good, but you still have $600,000. And we're not saying to yank all of it out from your financial advisor out of the stock market. We're just saying, look, why don't you just pull some out, pull the $50,000 out and try it. Find a great operator, try it, right? And see how you like it. And then you can do another one and another one. Eventually, I can already know where it's going. You can have all the money in multifamily. Okay, that's where it's going to go. But you don't have to do that right now. Just try it.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think one important point that should be highlighted as well, especially to someone who has lost a significant amount of their stock market investments, is with multifamily. When you're buying a real asset, you have that capital preservation, so you're less likely to lose 40% of the money you put into a particular deal. Because for the most part, you should be able to sell it at least at what you bought it for, maybe a little loss, but you're not going to be dipping down 40% of your total investment from it. But yeah, diversification is something that people should actually really consider, and owning more real estate is how many individuals have become millionaires. So.
That's right. Really appreciate it. We're losing time with you. Time's running out. Hey, Michael.
Yep.
So we're gonna dive right into the focus round. Fun. It's the focus. F stands for fun. What do you do for fun, Michael?
My gosh, what about fun? Well, I mean, things are a little different now. We're at home, but it makes us a little bit more resourceful. But typically we love to travel, which we can't do right now. So we typically travel 30 to 90 days a year, and that's really cool. I love to play tennis. Can't do that now. Can't do that either right now. So, and otherwise, we have a mountain house. We love going there and just hanging out, and just love doing stuff with our family. We have 4 kids, and we actually get along pretty well, and it's kind of fun that way.
Nice.
Excellent. So, O is for opportunity. What is one opportunity that was a game changer for you?
Gosh, there's so many of them, right? I used to suffer from shiny objectitis, but there's so many that I've done. Multifamily certainly was a major opportunity for me. House flipping was as misguided as it was. So was the restaurants, as misguided as that was. I think right now the opportunity is definitely getting ready for buying opportunities. And we're also starting to teach people how to build online thought leadership platforms. So in other words, how do you scale your capital raise? You've raised $500,000, and how do you add a zero to whatever you've done before? And that requires an online marketing platform. And so we are actually teaching that right now. And we had an amazing response to people, allowing people to scale much faster by basically combining the online marketing space, which I love, with real estate, which I also love. So that is I'm very excited about that. And it's also a big opportunity for us and for everybody involved.
All right. Appreciate it. What is your most important communication tip?
Gosh, communicating tip. You know what? Do what you say you're going to do.
Boom.
Pretty much that simple.
I love it. Plain and simple, right? All right. You as understanding. What is one thing you wish you understood earlier?
Gosh, I should have Rich Dad Poor Dad when it came out in '97. I didn't read until it was 2004. So the understanding of how money really works, that would have been useful.
Yeah, okay. It's something that you wish they would have taught a little bit sooner, right?
That's right.
To what do you attribute your success, Michael?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Like I said, I think it's. I have a great wife who's super supportive. It goes back to team members, right? It goes people around you, and the person that's around me most is my wife, and she's super supportive and encouraging. And then, there's other people on my team that are the same thing, and they're pushing me sometimes in directions I didn't really want to go. And all of a sudden I'm being pushed in a direction, and it becomes something. And so I think it's really a product of people who you're around just in general, right? You're going to be 5 years from now, you're going to be like the 5 people you hang out, with most.
All right.
Absolutely.
So, Michael, want to speak directly to our audience and tell them about the things that you're offering? Syndicated deal analyzer. You're working on some pretty new things right now.
Yeah, I like to say we have something for everyone, right? Everyone who's thinking, I want to quit my job, financial freedom with real estate. If you're thinking that, we got something for everyone, ranging from free resources, YouTube channel, podcast, just Google apartment building investing. And we have a syndicated deal analyzer, allows you to very easily, quickly, and accurately analyze deals. We also have online training courses called the Ultimate Guide to Buying Apartments. We have mentoring programs if you want to work one-to-one with a full-time syndicator. We have the Dealmaker Mastermind that you're talking about, super affordable. We actually open it up to the world because of what's going on right now with COVID. So that's a great way to connect with other people as well. And then we're teaching platform building as kind of the newest thing. So you can find us at themichaelblank.com. And that's BLANK. Oh, that's right. And the book is Financial Freedom with Real Estate Investing. That's on Amazon.
You'll make sure it's in the show notes.
Yeah, and be sure to go pick up your copy of that book and check out the website if you're looking to become financially free, which I think everybody is deep down. They just have those limiting beliefs and they just need to get past those, and having resources out there to help them is going to be such a transformational action that you take just by going to a website, picking up the book. So, well, Michael, thank you so much for taking the time today to stop in, speak with us, and dropping a lot of your wisdom off with us and our audience along the way. We hope you're staying safe, so be careful out there and have a great rest of your day. All right. Well,
all right, guys. Awesome. I got to run. It was great. Thanks for having me.
It was amazing.
All right. Yeah.
See you guys.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye. All right. I'm Dr. Heath Jones.
And I'm Hutch, a marine investor. Out.